Dear ballet, who are you? Who made you? Who made you? Who made you who you are right now today?
I've always danced. I think all people have always danced. Like a baby bounces when it hears a rhythm. So my first rhythm was, soca and calypso music. But my first class was ballet.
Oh yeah, I've been doing ballet since I was 3. I practice it, and I practice it with the body that I have.
And I went through the traditional classical ballet ladder in the Philippine Ballet Theater through the school, apprenticeship, soloist, principal dancer.
Ballet was the technique from which all other techniques stems from. And so I had a kind of difficult relationship with that because I didn't necessarily feel that it was a technique that suited me or my body or my way of moving.
As I explore my own voice, I recognized that I had muted my own culture. And so as I work to re-identify how I connect with my culture, I'm fighting to continually ask myself, where does ballet fit in my life? I recognize that a healthy relationship is one where you both give, and compromise and learn from each other. And so now I want to ask ballet, where do you meet me?
I saw the email from Josh. There was like a little bit of hesitation and maybe a little bit of disbelief or doubt that they had gotten it right.
I was so in shock when I saw the list of who selected the 4 choreographers in my cohort, including myself, because I know them all. And even though they've gone in such different directions, they have just been trailblazers. And so it was extremely humbling to finally feel a connection to all of them at once.
Thinking of me to be a part of what it means to be a part of this kind of fleet of voices, it makes me laugh out loud. It makes me quite joyous. And there's also something too about being nominated, thought of without actually knowing, to being approached and invited, and then for there to be a moment to give my consent.
I feel very honored that I was chosen to create something, not for a job, but just so that I could investigate and explore my voice.
When he told me that the lab was about experimentation and that it was not a product-oriented experience, that was what made me feel comfortable to say yes.
This was my first time working in a room with ballet dancers, focusing on the pointe shoe, and for me to be so confident in what I do as a choreographer, as a maker, as a collaborator.
I think I had no idea how much I would get from this past week. I've chosen always to create in socks in the last few years, and getting to work with dancers on point over the last 5 days, but with the breadth of contemporary movement I have with me, that I'm carrying with me from the last 10 years that I've spent in New York, was an amazing experience. And now choreographing in pointe shoes again, exploring how I can get that feeling of flow and liquid in the floor movement and yet still use the pointe shoe.
I'm really interested in decensoring product, decensoring the performance as part of my exploration and censoring the process as part of the experience. A little softness through whichever direction you're going, yeah. So I'm interested in the ways that as a maker, that the foundation of what I do is built on building relationships, is built on dialogue, is built on interaction and communication. And from that, trusting that that is enough, so that as we move forward, as whoever my collaborators are, that we will produce something that is worthwhile and interesting.
I feel like this whole experience is a really amazing moment for me to integrate so much of what I've been doing, and at a time where I'm I'm not afraid of my power. I really appreciate being able to write and draw, to bring in other disciplines of monologues, texts, poetry. I do ask folks to write, whether or not they're actually going to say their words out loud. And then I ask folks if I can witness them in that. A little louder. A little louder.
The work that I want to do is not to recreate what has been defined as good dance before. I want it to be authentically Usha. And I'm interested in being vulnerable at the front of the room so that the people in the room know it's okay to give into that. Because I think that makes good art. I give you permission. I give you, like, be ravenous. Yeah, go drink some water. Thank you so much, y'all.
So as a woman choreographer in the ballet world, it's almost like a little bit like you're an outsider. And then as a non-American in the US, you are an outsider. So I'm constantly merging these identities. And I find that it's easy for me then to merge the different identities in any room that I find myself in.
Let's see you run. Thank you, everyone.
My voice is collaborative and inclusive and open and always listening to the different people and the different ideas and thoughts in the room. And that's a huge influence on the actual choreography.
I've worked predominantly as a solo-based artist, so to be in space with 8 other like immensely talented, super fierce movers really felt like a gift.
There are certain rooms that respect dancers more, and I appreciated what it meant for Richard to be there, for there to be breaks that were planned.
To have a rehearsal director at my disposal and 8 incredibly capable, strong dancers, and the space and the time, it's kind of mind-blowing. This is the first time I've experienced something like this.
I learned a lot, not only about my work, but also about like what I'm capable of and ways in which I might move forward.
What I need to do is to speak louder than ever, and not to be validated by ballet or by those people, but to show you that I was always here. I always had a voice. I was always still doing the practice of the beautiful ballet. And now you are seeing me. And that is confidence that, for me, has just changed my life.
If what this lab does is bring in more diverse voices and new voices and give us a chance to realize, like I did this past week, that I have more to say than I thought I did, then supporting Dance Lab New York would just push that forward.
It doesn't take much to shift the perspective, but that you allow the voices that come into the room to speak loudly, that you don't ask them to conform. And every day that you continue to allow for that to happen, I think will allow for ballet to truly reflect the world. Because ballet is white, has historically been white. And there have been a few that have gotten in, but a few is too little. So let's let some more in the door.